G'day, I'm Paul. So Jaguar was one of the first premium brands to have a EV to market, and Jaguar took it one step further by developing a bespoke EV platform, while a lot of manufacturers just took an internal combustion car, threw some EV components in and said, hey, here it is, and that's either efficient or effective. So Jaguar being the first to market, does that mean they are the most successful? Well, not really. They haven't really sold a great deal of these. So today I just want to take it for a spin and figure out what's going on, what's wrong with this, why are people not buying it? So the I-Pace kicks off in Australia from a little over $140,000. Today we're reviewing the SE specification, which is the entry level. This competes with things like the BMW iX, the Mercedes-Benz EQC, and the Audi e-tron. So there are a few competitors now in this segment. Today we're going to do a detailed review of this car. So if you do want to skip ahead to other parts of the review, you can use those time codes on the screen, or if you're on YouTube, scroll down and use the chapters below. And if you haven't done so already, subscribe to our channel, press the bell icon. That's going to tell you every single time I swap my face. Let's talk about the exterior. So you've got 12 external colors to pick from. They're all free of charge, except two that are like a $3,900 option. Now, what about the design? So one of the key differences here with the I-Pace is that they've made it look quite different to the regular car. And I think maybe that's one of the reasons it hasn't been as successful. If you look at things like the EQC and the e-tron as well, they just look like other versions of a Mercedes-Benz or an Audi, whereas this looks completely different. And look, styling is subjective, but I actually think this looks pretty good. It turns a lot of heads out on the road, and it really is just such a different car to see out there. And I love down the bottom here, it looks like the grille just ends here, but it actually continues all the way through to this, opening up the top here, and that goes over the top of the car and pushes down on the rear window, which means they don't need to have a wiper. So that saves weight and also uses less electricity. So pretty clever innovation there. Now behind this grille there, you do have some some motor components rather, and you can access those behind the bonnet here, and there's some cooling down the bottom there as well. You've got a camera down here for the 360 camera. This car's optioned with the black pack, so kind of just blacks out all the elements on it, and I think it looks fantastic, especially here with the black body color as well. Over here you have a set of full LED headlights. These aren't matrix LED though, you've got to pay extra for that, which I reckon is a little bit disappointing. Matrix LED lights really should be standard on most cars today, especially premium brands. Got a little air vent out here that kicks out to the side here. Around the side, we have a set of 20-inch alloy wheels. I do like this design as well. So continuing on with that black theme, it's got a matte black finish to it. So it really gives this a bit of a mean look out on the road. It kind of just hides all of the design elements, and I think it looks really nice there. I find it interesting as well here that if you have a look at the brakes, so typically in an EV, you don't really use brakes all that much. Well, the mechanical brakes, it uses regen, and that means you do get a whole lot more brake life out of your vehicle. Some of the EV manufacturers, like the BMW with the iX, have gone with big flashy brakes, but you can see here with Jag, they've just kept it fairly minimal there with a smaller rotor and just a standard sort of caliper on the car. You've got your specification down the side here, SE, and then Jaguar lettering. Up on the top here, you've got an indicator built into that wing mirror with another camera there for the 360 camera. In terms of the door handles, when you lock the car, these disappear into the car, and then when you unlock it, they pop out like that. So it actually sort of sits flush with the car while you're driving. So again, reducing the amount of drag, meaning that you're able to get by without using as much electricity. This car has optional privacy glass, and then come around to the back. So you can see up the top here, this is what I was talking about. You get the air rushing through here along that back window, and then this tiny little spoiler kicks it off the end there. So that means that you're not getting any water pooling on here, and that all of the air that you have flying over the car just disperses. Now, it is interesting with spoilers. I learnt a lot when we did our drag comparison with the 911 Turbo, that spoilers actually help reduce turbulent airflow behind the car, which means you get less what do they call it? Turbulent kinetic energy, I think it's called. And that means that the car doesn't have to work as hard to push itself along. So click up here to watch that video. That was really good fun to film, and we go into a bit more detail about that. So up the top there, you can see the little camera in that shark fin aerial. It means that we get a digital version on the rear view mirror instead of just a standard one. We've got LED tail lights along the back here, and then the designation for the car, EV400 all-wheel drive. Now, I think Jaguar was meant to do a more powerful version of this car, but given the brand has said that it won't be announcing any new models between now and 2025 when it goes full electric, there is a chance here that we won't be seeing any more powerful versions of the I-Pace until that time rolls around. So we are inside the I-Pace. We'll start off with the key. So there it is. You've got lock, unlock, front boot, back boot, panic, Then on the back, you have Jaguar written there. It's a proximity sensing key, so you can leave that in your pocket, and then once you're inside, you have a push button start just there. So this car has been out for a little while now, and I think the design is starting to show its age. Yes, Jaguar has gone to the effort of putting PV Pro in here. Excellent infotainment system. I'll run you through that in a bit more detail soon. But there is so much blank space around there. You just do wonder why they didn't go for a bigger infotainment screen, given it is, you know, an electric car and they want to be up to date with tech. Even this stuff down the bottom is starting to look and feel a little bit old. The screen's just small and it looks just a little bit low resolution compared to PV Pro. But if you put that to one side, I think from a design perspective, it still actually looks pretty good. You've got these brushed aluminium elements sort of splitting up the black sections. Then up the top, it's all soft touch material that really sort of emphasizes this as being a premium offering in the Jaguar range. And that's all backed up by that screen ahead of the driver as well. Now, what about your touch points? So in the center there, that's firmish and then soft on the door. How soft are they? Well, we've got our gyrometer. We've tested the main surfaces in this cabin. If you want to see how this car compares to others that we've tested before, have a look at the link in the description. Now, what about build quality? So, all actually feels pretty good to me. I will actually mention that we had one of these as a long-term loan vehicle a little while back, and the build quality was actually pretty good on it as well. And door test. That all sounds nice and solid. Let's talk about infotainment. So you would have seen PV Pro in some of the other Jaguar Land Rover products we've tested recently. We do actually have a detailed review of this. You can click up here to watch that. So today I'll just take you through some of the high level stuff, plus a new feature that is now being rolled out to all of these vehicles with PV Pro. So here in the I-Pace, it's a 10-inch display. You can actually go, I think, all the way up to a 14-inch display. And I remember that being in the F-Pace SVR that we tested. And I thought that was such a beautiful looking screen and a great setup there. But the highlights here are that you have shortcuts here on the main screen. You can then scroll through and add any extra things that you want to add to that main screen as well to further customize it. In addition to that, you have status indicators on the side here for the vehicle's 4G, also your phone's reception and your phone's battery as well. Now, on the radio front, you have AM, FM and DAB plus digital radio. You can get the high-end optional sound system that adds more speakers and all that kind of thing, but the standard sound system is actually pretty good in its regular form. In terms of smartphone mirroring, this is another update that came through as part of an over-the-air update. There's now wireless Apple CarPlay and wireless Android Auto. I'll show you what Apple CarPlay looks like first. So there it is there. Pretty fast response, and it takes up that whole screen as well, which means you're getting that full integration. You can, of course, then send voice commands through the car to Apple CarPlay if you need to. This is what Android Auto looks like. So again, full screen integration and nice and quick as well. Now, let's touch on something that is new to Jaguar Land Rover, and that is the integration of Alexa into their infotainment systems. Now, you might think to yourself, what is the purpose of that? What's the big deal? Why can't I just use Siri? Well, the big deal is that it is native to the infotainment system, and the infotainment system is probably one of the better units on the market today because it's instant on. You get inside the car, it's ready to roll. Your smartphone mirroring is there. It is sort of ready to do everything you need it to do. And when it comes to that Alexa integration, you're able to control your home from the car. So for example, if you have lights in your driveway or something like that that you want to switch on as you come home, you're able to tell the car and it will then send the command through. So we've set up some Amazon devices at home, and this is some of the stuff that I've been playing with. So let's give this a shot. Hey Alexa, turn the air conditioner on and set it to 22 degrees.
Okay.
Hey Alexa, turn the lamp on.
Okay.
Hey Alexa, play CarExpert on YouTube in the kitchen.
Searching YouTube.
Hey Alexa, who is Paul Maric?
This might answer your question. According to the Department of Health and Human Services, Paul Maric is a physician based in Winfield, Illinois who specializes in neurology.
Okay, that's obviously not right. Hey Alexa, who is Paul Maric?
According to Wikipedia, Paul Murray is an
Hey Alexa, who is Paul Maric?
Paul Maric is a motoring journalist and YouTuber based in Australia.
There we go. Okay, she got there in the end. So what I'm trying to get at here is the Alexa integration means that if you do have devices at home, even devices that aren't Amazon branded, like the air conditioner and stuff like that, you can get it to activate all of it from the car. So while you are on the way home, it'll do everything from here. So the reason I'm excited about that stuff is because it begins that connected future with your home. It means your car can actually be part of your home and can interact with your home. So I'm excited to see where this takes us and where they can develop this technology from here, given it is like literally just released. Now, before I show you the screen ahead of the driver, I want to run you through one feature here, and it is the Jaguar application. So once you crack the application open, it comes up with your car, mileage and that sort of stuff. You've also got electric details, so range, charging schedules, and all the sort of basic functions you need to have active for operating the vehicle as an EV. Also gives you the status of what the car's doing. But if you go over here to remote, you can set things like your climate. Let me give it my face there. You can set things like your climate, lock and unlock the car remotely, and also initiate charging if you need to. You have your journeys there as well. So look, pretty fully featured app, and a big improvement over when this car launched, because it used to be quite slow to actually do anything. It is much faster now, which is good news. Now, the screen ahead of the driver is a 12.3-inch display. You can configure what appears on the screen here. You've got warnings on the left-hand side. You can even change what's on the display here. So if we go down to layout, we've currently got that sort of center one dial setup. You can get a 2-dial setup back in the day when you had speedo and a rev gauge as well. Or you can go the full map display as well. So look, it's a good setup. I just think it's probably a little bit dated. This could do with a really nice refresh to bring it in line with what BMW, Audi and those guys are actually doing with their displays at the moment. In addition to that, you have a head-up display ahead of the driver, all basic information there. You get some of your nav details, speedo, and also traffic sign recognition as well. Now, safety technology, you've got autonomous emergency braking, you have rear cross traffic alert, you have a blind spot monitor built into that wing mirror, you have a lane departure warning, radar cruise control, and a lane keeping assistant. When it comes to parking, you have front and rear parking sensors and a 360 camera. I'll show you what the camera looks like. So there it is there. It's actually a really high quality camera, and then you can move the views around as part of that 360 view, or you can come over here and manually select the view as you go. So yeah, not a bad setup there. I like the way that they've integrated that, and I don't know, made it look kind of fun as well at the same time. Hey, by the way, if you do want more information on the I-Pace, we have a full review plus information on specification and pricing at the CarExpert website. You can click up here to be taken to the I-Pace showroom. Let's move on to practicality, and we'll start off with your connectivity. So you've got one USB-A port down here. Inside the center console, you have a USB-C port, another USB-A port, and a 12-volt outlet. There is also a port here for your nano SIM. Now, it's a little bit confusing, but the car comes with an embedded SIM. You then need to add your own SIM card to get connectivity to the car remotely. So a little bit confusing. I don't understand why they don't just have both of those operating under the one SIM, but it is the way that it is. On the phone front, where are you going to pop that? Well, you've got wireless phone charging down the front here. Your phone can then live in a variety of other places as well. So it's pretty straightforward there. What about your coffee cup? So good news. There is a deep hole there if you do have American style coffee, but if you have Paul style coffee, your coffee cup fits into there without any dramas. It's easy to lift as well, and then you have rubber teeth holding it into place. Same story with the bottle. You've got two tiers there, so it's not going to really move anywhere. I love the way those rubber teeth hold it into place. This then fits inside the door, no problems there. We'll see if our big bottle fits. Yes, it does. Look at that. Win-win. On other storage, you have the center console here. Look, it's reasonably sized. It's actually quite deep, and then it goes under here as well. So you've got stacks of room in there. Glove box is not too bad as well. That's quite deep. You've got this storage space down here if you're not charging your phone. And finally, you have a sunglasses holder up the top. In terms of your comfort, this is where you control your climate control. So it has dual zone automatic climate control. So you control temperatures on here, but it has a pretty cool feature. So you've got your screen down there, you press this button up the top, and it's called Smart Climate. So it will only deploy air conditioning to the passengers that are in the car. So if I turn that off, I can then go over here and start setting individual climate zones. But then when it is switched on, it just services the one passenger inside the car. And then to turn on your seat heating, you can push into there and then switch your seat heating on or your seat cooling as required. So really nice setup, and I love the way they've integrated all of that into that display. I think that feels really nice, high-end and premium. Now on the seats are pretty comfortable for long distance drives. They hug you in nicely too, and you can see the perforations on them here for that cooling. And I do love the Jaguar emblem there on the headrest. I think that looks great. So you have electric seat adjustment for both the driver and front passenger. You've got a number of adjustments here. So you can go forwards, backwards, backrest can go forwards, backwards, seat can go up and down. You can adjust all of your bolsters there, the front section as well. You've got memory for the driver and front passenger, and that's all part of an optional seat package that gives you all of those adjustments. Then on the steering front, you have both tilt and reach adjustment. And on our reach test, all of this stuff is easy to reach while you're driving. Okay, second row of the I-Pace. So room, not too bad there in terms of knee room. Toe room is pretty reasonable and headroom is good. I think if you're a little taller, you're probably going to be rubbing up against that. But I'll call this out. This panoramic roof, pretty sure it's optional, but I think it looks fantastic. They've even integrated the glass around this section here. So it goes all the way behind your head, and I think it is a really cool look, and it's naturally tinted as well, so it doesn't get too hot when you do have the sun beaming on it. Other creature comforts, you've got map pockets in the back of the seats. These are your seat heater controls, 2 USB-C outlets down the bottom, and a 12-volt outlet as well. A little bit of storage there too. You've got a center armrest here with 2 cup holders. So a bottle fits into there. It's got those grip teeth, so it'll hold it into position nicely, and then the bottle fits. Oh, no, it doesn't. The bottle doesn't fit inside the doors. I just don't understand why you would make doors that don't fit bottles. This is a pretty standard size bottle, so a little bit disappointing there. You have ISOFIX points on the 2 outboard seats and top tether points as well. Look, I think in terms of a family car, this kind of meets that brief in terms of having enough room for the kids. You've got air vents built into these pillars, and also the safe exit assistant, so it'll prevent you from opening the door if there is another vehicle or cyclist coming, because kids are sometimes very eager to get outside the car. Finally, our window test. Let's see what happens there. We'll get that. Oh, look at that. Almost all the way down, just that little lip there, but I am thankful it's not like the BMW iX, which stopped like here or something like that. So yeah, at least it goes most of the way down. So cargo space, because it's a bespoke EV platform, the cargo space isn't terrible. So you have a little over 650 litres available here in the boot, and that includes some underfloor storage. So you can store your cable here and a few other odds and ends. Likewise down the front there, and then you've got a tyre repair kit as well, just in case you need it. Off to the sides, you have some hooks if you do want to tie some stuff down. 12-volt outlet plus another hook you can deploy on either side. Show you what it looks like with our bags in there. So laptop bag there, and then our full-size suitcase. So you can see there it kind of pretty much takes up most of that space. And then what you can also do is remove your cargo blind. And once that's out of the way, we can drop our second row as well. And that increases space to a little under 1,500 litres. And there's also just under 30 litres of storage space under the front boot for things like cables. Now, before we go for a drive, I just wanted to run you through the charging. So you have one charge port, which is located here. That includes AC and DC charging. So AC charging can occur in single phase up to 7.4 kilowatts, while DC charging, on the other hand, works at up to 150 kilowatts and it peaks at around 105 kilowatts. Now, this is an interesting position. I really don't like it on the Taycan and here in the I-Pace, how your charger is on this part of the car, because some of the cables on those fast chargers don't really reach all that well, and you've got to drape it over the car. Really would prefer if this was right at the front or right at the back, or perhaps on both sides like it is in the Taycan. So a little bit disappointing on that front. Also a little bit disappointing that while other brands are now capable of doing up to around that 250 kilowatt mark on a 350 charger, this is still capped at around the 100 kilowatt peak mark. So really do wish this would charge a little bit faster given the technology is out there. So I've just hit the road in the I-Pace. Now this is all-wheel drive. That means it has one motor on the front axle, one motor on the rear axle, and combined they produce 294 kilowatts of power and 696 newton meters of torque. Quite precise, isn't it? And that's all mated to a 90 kilowatt hour battery. The actual usable capacity of that battery is a little over 80 kilowatt hours. So that gives you an idea of how much range you come to expect, and that's around that 470 kilometer mark, depending on the type of measurement you're using to figure out range. And this is the really confusing thing with EVs. And I guess it's kind of the same with internal combustion cars. Whenever we quote range, it's very, I guess, perfect conditions set up. In these EVs, I always take like 100 Ks off the stated range because, you know, you on days like today where it's hot, you want to run the air conditioner. There'll be other days when you're driving uphill towards a destination that'll use more battery, or colder days. So it is just worth keeping in mind whenever you see range, just lop 100 Ks off and that should be your comfortable driving range. Jaguar has a combined electric economy of 23 kilowatt hours per 100 Ks. We are currently sitting on 21.9, so under that claim, which I think is pretty damn impressive. As a reference, my Model 3 Performance sits at around 17 kilowatt hours per 100 Ks, which means it uses less electricity to do 100 kilometers of driving. Now, what does all that feel like behind the wheel? And look, I think you're probably getting a little bit bored of every single car reviewer in the world just going, oh, look, it pins you back in the seat and all that sort of stuff. Pretty much every EV does that. And it's an easy party trick because, you know, it's an electric motor. It takes torque instantly from a battery. There really isn't much science to it. What they've done well, though, in the I-Pace is given you the torque when you need it, but also smoothed it out when you don't need it. So as I gradually apply throttle, it's giving me enough momentum there without sort of lumping me back into the seat. Whereas if I do step on it, it really sort of picks up that pace and makes it all happen. They've also done a great job with the regen. As I roll out of the throttle, it's quite a strong regen. It feels very much like a Tesla in the way that it slows down. The only downside is it doesn't come to a complete stop unless you've met a number of conditions. So right now we've got a slight incline and it's come to a complete stop and held it. But in some situations it doesn't actually come to a complete stop, and it's a little bit confusing why they have that feature if they haven't, you know, got a brake that gets applied as the car gets slow enough. So it is worth just keeping that in mind, and I think they probably need to refine that regen feature just a little bit. One of the big advantages of the I-Pace in comparison to its competitors is its total mass. It weighs a little over 2,100 kilograms, and that is because this sits on its own bespoke EV platform. The 90 kilowatt hour battery gives you that good balance between I guess the range that you need, but also it not being too heavy. And I think that's why the balance here is right and why the weight is so good as well. Some of the EVs in this segment, like the BMW iX and especially that top spec model, weigh in at over 2.5 tons, which is just huge. And at the end of the day, yes, battery capacity and battery power density will improve and make these lighter, but ultimately I think they need to do as much as they can to reduce the weight through the platform to start with. So what's the ride like? Now, in the SE model, air suspension and adaptive damping is optional. So I'm going to dial this up to the speed that we went through here in the Ioniq 5, which runs a similar setup on the same wheelbase. So that is about 130 kilometers an hour, and then we'll run over these. Yeah, okay. So this is suffering the same thing that the Ioniq 5 had. Really just doesn't have a great deal of body control at that top end once you do hit those maximum highway speeds, and that is because you don't have an adaptive damping setup, so it is forced to just manage as much as it can on its own, and as a result of that it feels just a little bit floaty as it hits those consecutive bumps, and they're things that you're going to experience on country roads at these country speeds in some instances. And what's road noise like? It's pretty good. So we're doing sort of around that 100 kilometre an hour mark now on a country road here, and look, there is some tyre noise coming into the cabin, but it's fairly civil. I can hear a little bit of wing noise about those wing mirrors, but for the most part, it's not too bad. Righto, let's put this into sport mode. So you've got your drive modes here, and I'll pop this down into dynamic. We've got eco, comfort, sport, and ice, but dynamic's the one I'm after. Let's plow it through this corner. That's actually not too bad. So it is soft in that sense that you can kind of predict what it's going to do. And as you start picking up the pace, it actually feels really enjoyable at higher speeds. When you hit those bumps, it's really soft and progressive. You know exactly what it's going to do. It never really surprises you. And in the sport mode, that throttle becomes quite sensitive, so you can actually really play with it and just give yourself that push in the back whenever you want it. Let's have a look here at this faster section. Look at our sweeper coming up. The body's actually really nicely settled. I'm quite surprised by that. It's, yeah, look, I thought this was probably going to be a little worse than it is, given the Ioniq 5 felt really, I guess, way too floaty over these sections. Even here on these higher speed parts, when you line up the throttle, it just pulls along really nicely. So, yeah, quite impressive. And look, it meets the brief of being a Jag, right? Jags are all about driving enjoyment and putting a smile on your face, and this really ticks those boxes. And just in terms of steering feel and brake pedal feel, there's a really good transition here between the regen and the mechanical braking system. And likewise in sport mode, there's adequate feedback through the steering wheel just to give you a sense that something is happening in the car. So, you know, if you are after a fun EV, this definitely meets that brief. You don't really need to spend money on the air suspension. You know, on these floatier bits, it is a little sort of unsettling, but for the most part, it's actually quite enjoyable to drive. Jaguar claims a 0 to 100 time of 4.8 seconds. This is how it went up against our stopwatch. Now, what about your visibility? So I can see clearly down the front there. I think the wing mirrors could be a little bit bigger. So they are okay in terms of size, but you kind of have stuff lost in them, and you get blind spot monitoring built into those. Visibility out the back isn't great. It's quite a narrow envelope, so you don't really see a great deal out of that. And you're probably not going to be doing a great deal of off-roading. I know this actually has quite an impressive weighting depth, because being electric, they can seal it all up and you can do a bit of light off-roading. And at the launch, we actually did some off-roading in these, so they are capable for some light off-roading. But ultimately, you've only got a ground clearance of about 140 millimeters to work with, so it's not a huge amount. And then in terms of low-speed maneuvers, turning circle comes in at just under 12 meters, and the steering is nice and light in that comfort driving mode. So the Jaguar I-Pace, look, despite it not feeling as fresh as some of the EVs in this segment, it's actually still a really enjoyable car to drive, and it hits all the marks an EV needs. It's fairly efficient, it has enough room inside, and it looks different enough to the others without looking too outrageous. So I do like that they've integrated PIV Pro, so that is a big step forward from the last infotainment system, which was dreadfully slow. This, on the other hand, is instantly there. It's capable of over-the-air updates, and similar to what Tesla's doing, you're getting new features as well, like that Alexa stuff that gets uploaded to the car and you don't even need to do anything about it. It just appears there materially overnight. Now, would I buy one? Well, this is the problem, right? You've got so many competitors in the segment now, and they're all offering a whole lot more, I guess, equipment. Look at something like the BMW iX, for example. At that same price bracket, it actually is a big offering with, I guess, even more bells and whistles in terms of technology. So you really do have to weigh up your options there. But if it is the driver's EV that you want, the Jaguar really is up there in terms of performance and putting a big smile on your face. Now, let me know in the comments section below, have you bought an I-Pace? What's it been like to live with? There are really not that many on the road here in Australia, but I know that some of you have bought them. So let me know what the ownership experience is like in the comments section below. If you did enjoy this video, please make sure you share it with your mates. And if you haven't done so already, subscribe to our channel and press the bell icon. But until next time, take it easy.